of whiskey that they make on the ridge. So it'll be great. All right, my friends, as you're joining us, welcome to Outlander Book Club, the Outlander Readalong. And oh my goodness, this year is like coming towards an end already, which is crazy. Oh, come on. What's my computer doing? Okay. But yeah, this will be for the Fiery Cross, which I know not all people got through it. And if some people skimmed it, nobody's going to judge you. It's all right. I was telling Amber, I've read this one 4 times and I still don't actually understand a few parts of this book because every time I'm like bored during that part and I'll like skip a little bit. I also think I firmly believe that this is no one's favorite book. I've never heard someone say The Fiery Cross is their favorite book after a decade of reading these books. I don't hate any of her books at all, but I've never seen The Fiery Cross at the top of anyone's list. Let's just say that. So anyone who had a tough time or didn't enjoy or skimmed it, I understand. But I do know that we've probably reached the point of no return. Like if you get through The Fiery Cross, you're probably not going to stop. But I also understand if people stopped. So before we start the discussion part of it, let's share what you're reading. And I'm going to take a half a shot of my Sassenach whiskey to get us ready for this. I have a taster right here because I hate this stuff. But you know what? I want to drink it eventually. I've had it.
I'm having vodka seltzer.
Yeah, I was like, I told her to bring drinks. I was like, gotta bring. I also have like wine for after because that's more my speed. I'm a fruity tooty type of girl. I'm not.
Yeah.
Give it to me raw, but here we go.
I wish I was cool where I could drink whiskey and be like, no, it's too much for me.
If it's a really good one, a really old one, I can drink them. They're not as hard.
It definitely tastes different. It is funny how that, like, it definitely tastes different than the last time I had some. So it's definitely aging a little bit. Oh, ooh, it's all the way down. Oh. Woo. Anyway. All right, let's see here. The second half is more enjoyable. Yes. Well, yeah. We'll talk about it for sure. Hey, Allie. Hey, girl. So excited to chat. Yeah, this is a tough one. I ordered the rest of the books here committed. Yay, Lisa. Hooray. Hooray. Yeah, they are. We'll get into it. I have such a soft spot for it too, though, because there are some of my favorite scenes are in this book. And I always forget that they're in this book because, again, I don't associate this book with being my favorite, as I've said now multiple times at all. And so I forget that some of my favorite scenes are in this book because I'm always just like, got to get through it, chugging through it. And it has some of my favorite scenes, which is exciting. But yeah, well, what are we at? Just 5 minutes. I'll give people a couple more minutes. What I'm currently reading, let me say that. And then we can go. So I'm rereading Soar High. I started my reread of that today to get that done. And well, look, Allie's here. Allie, this will be coming your way this month. We'll finish off that series. And then I started the My Favorite Boss, which I think you're reading too, right? Or did you finish?
Yeah, I just finished it. I had to put it down halfway because I forgot. I put the wrong date down for in the details. I thought it was coming out the 19th, and then when I saw the email, I was like, oh my God. So then I had to just stop reading that, but I finally finished it.
Yeah, I just started that one, which I'm super excited about. It's so cute. Oh,
I've only read one Melanie Moreland, which was like Into the Storm or whatever, that one. And so, like, I'm in love. Like, I'm not usually a rom-com girl, but I loved this book, and it was so cute and actually funny and amazing banter. And I'm like, okay, I need to look at her other books. Like, I need to read them.
Girl. Yeah, you got to read the biker ones. The Reynolds Restoration. And then, well, they're not rom-com, but I thought you read Roman and Aldo. I thought you read
No,
those.
I didn't. Mm-mm.
You'll like those. I mean, those ones aren't rom-coms. They are mafia.
Those are mafia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're mafia light. And the audiobooks of those are really good too. So those books got me like back into her again. I hadn't like fallen out of her, but she hadn't released a book that I wanted to read for a while. So I hadn't read one. But
yeah.
Anyway, so you just finished that. What else are you reading?
I'm gonna start Phantom's Thrall, which is like Phantom of the Opera retelling, but it's a white shoes, and it's MMMF, which I know you would appreciate. So I'm hoping there's some sword crossing going on or some good stuff.
No, see, that depends though. When it's a Y choose, if the F is in the middle of the M's, then that's not a sword cross unless it says it is.
Yeah.
When it's a sword
I think
cross,
it's there together.
The F is at the end. The F is
yeah, because I think the three of the whoever it's going to be, because I haven't really started it yet, is like going to be the guys already together, like with the Phantom or something, like a dancer and whatever, different characters. So we'll see.
I mean, not that it wouldn't be, but they mislabeled it if they put the F, because when you have more than two M's, you have to put the M's beside each other, even if they're not. So how you tell is if the F is at the end and it's like MMMMF, that would be sword crossing. If
that's what it is. It's MMMF. Okay, so I'm hoping. Yeah, it could be good. But you know how things get marketed the wrong way with these white shoes
all the time. When I'm like, there are rules for a reason. Follow the rules.
Yeah.
Get annoyed, but I mean, I hope that's good. And Steph said she just finished this, so you're probably not reading something else yet.
No, I just finished this, and the day before I finished God of Malice. So I was reading like 2 books at a time, and I also did an audiobook while I was working. So it was a full week this week, but it's fine.
That's good though. That's good. You were in a slump for a while, so.
Yeah, I'm out of my slump. Yeah. I'm already almost at my yearly reading goal, so I'm just speeding through it at this point.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Let me see what else people said, and then we'll get started, because I honestly think we won't talk about this one as long as some of the others. I know I say that every time, but I mean it. I don't have as many like detailed things about this one to talk about. Whereas with books 1 through 4, I have so many thoughts about those. This one, we get into the part of the series where it's a lot of day in the life stuff for a lot of the book, which I love, but it's not as specific to talk about. This one is near the bottom of my list, but you liked it more than. But I liked this more than when you read it before. I think that's what he said. I liked it more this read than him. Okay, yes, and I agree. I like it more every time I read it. That's about the book. Happy Saturday. Hi, Amanda. Hey, girl. Catching up, and you have to say that this is your favorite one. But this is your first time reading, though, right, Amanda? Because I think this is her first read. So I'll be interested to see if it's your favorite when you're done, though, is the thing. Like, that's cool if you've liked it the most so far, but there's some really good ones coming. So much good stuff in these books. So I'm glad that it's your favorite one so far, though. That makes me really happy. Like, I'm not upset if it's anyone's favorite. I'm just saying, in my history of talking to people about the books, they usually don't like this one. And if they've given up on the series, it's usually on this one.
Yeah, I was talking to Autumn on my team, and she was saying that she gave up after this book, basically. That's like kind of when she stopped. And I'm like, I think that happened to a lot of people on this one.
Yeah, and like, I want people to keep going if people give up at this one. I mean, I always want them to keep going, but like, especially book 6. Book 6 is like, I change all the time, but like book 6 and book 4 like always go between being my favorites. So there are some very long days. Yes, there are some long days. We'll talk about the long day.
Oh, the Eve series.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Way to go, Amanda. That is a series.
When I watched your video when you first read those, Jen, I got too scared to read those. I was like, watching your reaction was amazing. I was like, okay, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could do that to myself.
It's super funny, though, that I love that Amanda's reading those and that you're thinking about it, because I actually want to like reread those. Because now that, like, I mean, I've talked to her multiple times since I've read those books now, as well as I now know what happens. So I wonder how I'll feel if I reread them. And I also have the beautiful set that Daniela gifted me, and I'm like, I kind of want to read those. I like want to read those. So might do that.
Yeah, I need to read them.
And I think there's audiobooks for those ones, so I might have to listen to those.
Yeah.
You Finally finished. Yeah, girl, you caught up. The next is your favorite. Yes, Christina. Yeah, book 6, man. So many good feelings. Stopped after this one several years ago. Voyager is still your favorite for now. Nice. Well, I hope you keep going for sure. I'm glad we have book club. I'm glad. See, that's the thing. I'm glad some people are still going. Even if there's just the 20 of us that are watching this, we're going to keep going with it. We're going into 2025 with it. So really enjoyed it being on the right. Okay, we're going to get started now because now we're commenting on the book and
okay,
we've had enough to talk about. So we're like starting with this. People are kind of mentioning this already. This is what I ask every time is how it was for the first time readers. And some people are saying already. I think what I want to like add into that is like, why do you think that it was more difficult than previous books? Like, why do you think that was making it tougher to get through? Because that's what I would like to know. Because to me, it feels very similar to, again, what I think the series does, except being longer and doing that. So that's what I just want to kind of ask people.
So this is my first time with this one, and I think I struggled. I didn't mind because they're all long and she explains a lot and goes into historical detail. I don't mind that. And I didn't mind the day in the life type of things, but like I felt like not a lot of huge plot things were happening throughout it that made me excited to get into it again. And so it was just kind of dragging when it was like felt like 15 chapters of like the gathering or whatever, I was just struggling with like getting into it as much as I did like the previous ones. So I just felt like it was a lot slower. And even though like some important stuff happens and I loved like certain amazing scenes between like Jamie and Roger and Bree, and like there was all these amazing things. I don't know what it was. It just really, it took me a while to like get through it.
Sure.
Same for me.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of names in the beginning of people that I didn't know yet that were brought up, didn't mention again. Then after some chapters were brought up again, they jumped from point to point, which was a little bit confusing for me sometimes. Which
like all the traveling here, there. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, which I didn't have in the other books because they were mentioning going to another place. And now they were just like, bam, we're over there. And then bam, we're over there. So sometimes I have to like look back. Okay, what was happening? It didn't really. The first half of the book was really hard for me. And then the second half, it went smoother and faster.
Yeah, like when it was the first half where it's like most of that is like the beginning at the gathering and the wedding and all that stuff was like so long of that. And then I remember I was talking to my mom about it. She's like, have they got to the fiery cross yet? And I'm like, we haven't even got to the fiery cross yet. So, I mean, it's definitely just took me a while. And then like what you're mentioning like the random characters, I can't even remember their names now. Like it's like in and out of my head. But I'd be like, who are these people? Why is this important? But then they'd come in later again. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, but I was kind of lost some of the times and trying to keep up with what the heck was going on.
Yeah. Just I mean to say this at the beginning of each of these forward books now. So I'll say now, this book covers exactly 2 years. This one covers 2 years. There'll be some books that cover even more years than that as we go on. Just depends. But that's something that when I reread the last time I tracked it, so I've like written in each book how long it lasts. And that's something to keep in mind too for our surprise re-entry of a character at the end. There's a lot of stuff that happens in his life while he's gone, and it was 2 years that he's gone for. So very important to share. But anyway, okay, let's see what some of the viewers said here. Steph, this was your first time with this one?
Yes.
Okay, that's right. I thought so. I knew that you had stopped at some point. Okay. As a first-time reader, I'm just enjoying having them or seeing them have day-to-day life that I would have loved for them to have rather than be separated for 20 years. Oh, so
yeah.
True. Love it. It was hard to see where this book was going and if it all connected as a whole book. Very true. It was just very satisfying for you personally. Yes, very satisfying. This felt like a transitional book. good way to say it. The last 25% was first time for you. Some of the traveling and characters were easier to follow in the first part of the book. Yes. Great point. So yeah, like I say, I'm still always confused. I'm still always confused for a lot of stuff. So that's the thing. I am not the all authority on this series. I just love it a whole lot and I can talk about it nonstop. That doesn't mean I pick up on every little thing that happens. But I will say that over the years, a lot of interviews I've listened to have filled me in on different books of hers. So that's where some of the knowledge that I'll share is because I've listened to interviews of her. If it's not on the page in her books, that's also on her. If she didn't put it on the page, she can't just tell us in an interview and hope that people will see it. But something that is on the page, and I only noticed until reread, is that whole first part is one day, which some of you have already commented on, of like it felt like it took forever. But upon reread, I thought that was so cool that all of that was happening in one day. And it feels so long because like it is so long. Like they feel like it takes a long time too. And every time they're trying to do something, someone distracts them from a thing. And I feel like we've all had a day like that, where you have plans to do one certain thing and you get pulled in all these different directions. And by the end of the day, you're just about to go to bed and you're like, I still haven't done the thing. And then you have to like get it done. And that's something I felt about that. And I can't remember how many plot points it is. I think it's like 5 of them. But each of the main 4 characters, will say, that's who I consider the main characters. It was Roger, Bree, Jamie, Brianna. Wait, I say her name twice. Claire, Jamie, Roger, Brianna. Half a shot of whiskey and I already am sweating. I'm not even kidding. I start getting like boob sweat as soon as I have a big whiskey. I have a fan pointed on me. And each of them has like a plot point that gets started in here. Because one of my questions is, do you think there was a really good, or do you think this book had a theme and a through line? And that is something already that I think Lisa said it was hard to see where it was going. But one of the things that I now look at in her books going forward is what is the through line for each character, because her books from now on won't really have a single arc. Each character in the book will have their own, like what's their beginning, middle, and end of the book. Whether that's a good way to tell a story or not, I'll leave up to people as they read them. But now that that's something I'm always aware of in her books, I'm always looking for, at the beginning of each book, what are the journeys she's setting each person on? And then based on how many chapters they get, do we see them go on that? Because again, I think in this one, do we still just have the 4 perspectives? Did anyone else get added? Usually she added perspective.
So. No, the 4.
It was still just the 4. Okay. Because I was looking for another one. I don't think that I saw it.
We did get letters, but we did not see those perspectives.
Right. Yeah, those ones don't fully count. Because I don't think there was any rent. So for those 4, like they each kind of have a plot that they got set up. And it does all of that kind of happens in the gathering. Like they each have something, you know. And so I feel like the book as a whole could have a better structure in that case. But when I follow each person's journey, I can see what each person's arc was. And I really like that about this, particularly like Brianna's and Roger's in this one. This is the book that I really fell in love with Roger and Bree for like, I love them so much and I will forever because of this book. Because when I reread this book, the first time I did a reread, I didn't really care for Brianna the first time through this series until maybe like the last book. And I'm a huge Brianna fan, just so much. And when I reread now, like this is the book where I really see her like getting to become a woman, getting to become who she's going to be. And we see Roger dealing with a lot of struggles too that we'll get into. And I just think they really are trying to find who they're going to be in the past. And, you know, now we've decided to stay. We're pretty sure we're going to stay. They're slowly giving up some chances where they might be able to go back. Like they're really choosing to stay. And so then who are you going to be while you're here then? If you are going to stay and you're not waiting for a chance to go home, who are you going to be now? So, yeah. But anyway, I ask a question and then I talk the whole time. See, I told you wouldn't have to talk if you came. I'll talk the whole time. But
yeah, I have to say that I really loved Roger and Bree in this, because this is my first time really reading their journeys. You know, like I've just had the show, and I just didn't really appreciate them as much in the show. And so I'm glad I'm reading the books because I really love Roger in this so much more than I do the show. And so I feel like bad, you know, I have to like not think of the guy from the show when I envision Roger, because it's like, but I thought his journey was so interesting. I loved him and Bree's like journey of like being settled, married, having a child together, what they're gonna do in this new like being living in the past, where like you're saying, where is Roger's place within this, you know? And I thought, so I really did enjoy that stuff. Like, and also like Roger and Jamie like getting closer and having their moments together. I really liked that. So I just honestly, these last two books, I finally am like appreciating Bree and Roger for the first time.
Yeah.
For me, it was the team, maybe community, because they're all like in this together, living together for the first time, learning more about each other. For me.
Yeah, and like being a settled, like new married couple, like with a kid, you know, and living in a time you don't know. And I loved how like Roger would kind of look to Claire and Jamie, isn't it? Like, you know, and you know, you get to see him become closer and like look up to Jamie and what Jamie's, you know, how good of a leader he is, and just things that Roger's learning from them. So
yeah,
I really like that.
Well, what you said about the show too, you're now seeing too why so many people hate. Like, I love the man who plays Roger, and he's getting there. They've let him get there in the very latest seasons. Again, I can't remember if you watched all the way through or not, but there's a few scenes in like they finally let his character be him. But
yeah.
I made a video so long ago about like the assassination of Roger's character on the show. Oh God, one of my older videos, because it pissed me off so bad. I mean, even more than Bree, because they play up the Bree bitchy part, which I knew they were gonna do just because to give her some stuff, and I forgive them for that. But like, I couldn't forgive them for Roger because I love the actor who's playing him. I love him. I don't think they let him be him so often. So anyway,
yeah.
Can't talk about the show too much, but that's one of the things too. That, like, yeah, it's why it pissed me off, because I'm just like, no, he's so great. You've ruined him. You made him this whiny little brat. But
yeah.
Okay, so got to keep it moving here. We're 30 minutes in and we're still in the beginning, but this is a very powerful beginning to the book. And this is a start. I mean, it's already been happening, but this is really the start of, there will be very specific times where like talk of Frank will pop up. And this is one of those where like, this is the one where like, I don't know how much magic is involved in this series or not, because there are moments like this where I'm like, yes, you could just be thinking of someone, but I also wonder how much of it is like an extra level of things too. But I just want to know what people think of this. Why do you think she was thinking of him, and what do you think his presence here means, and things like that? So, if anyone has any.
Okay. I'm like trying to remember even what she was thinking about him for in the beginning.
Wasn't this to do with the ring she got back because she was touching the ring?
I think that was later.
Wasn't that in the beginning?
I know there was a beginning part where it was like in their love scene, right? Or them being intimate, and she thought about him. I'm like, where is it?
Before the wedding, because she wanted him to be with the wedding, so she was gonna touch the ring for him to be there. But with the magic stuff, I do think a lot of it can be magical, because there was some tree mentioned, a rowan tree, and then a lot of magical books. That type of tree is mentioned. We had a discovery of witches in the background on, and the same tree was mentioned when I was reading about the rowan tree, and I was like, okay, that's a big coincidence.
Yeah, no, I think it's part of this as well, and I think it's an interesting thing too of later on where she gets kind of pissed about Jamie doing a certain thing, Because I think that, I mean, there's an aspect of Claire that is always going to honor Frank. Like, we know that. We have a very complicated relationship with him. What we feel about him, but there were important steps that he took that made this happen. Like, he's the reason she's ever in Scotland to begin with. When would she have ever been there to be able to do this? Like, there's just different things. Also, I think it's because of who Bree is marrying. Like, she's really marrying someone who is like Frank for a good, like, a lot about him. Like, Frank would be very approving of someone like Roger. Like, there's a lot of things that can make him come up. But I think this is a lot of it too, is just she feels his presence because it's Bree's wedding day. And I think it can just be as simple as that, or we can make it more intense if we want to, but makes sense. She'd be thinking of him. It's a mix of magic and memory. Yeah, very true. Very true. Okay, we don't have to spend too much time on him. But we do have one other thing to say, though, because Roger does tell Bree now about the letter, which he told Jamie that he would. So he tells him about it. And, we have her being pretty, like, pissed about it. And Roger actually, like, defending Frank's side. And he even says, he's like, I think I really get his side of this. I mean, he was probably afraid you'd try to go, but he also, would want to tell you. So that's the question, is like, do we think Frank was ever going to bring her? Later on, she mentions him, like, teaching her all the things that she knows. But just from this point, based on the letter that Roger read to Jamie last time, like, do we think he was going to take her there at some point?
I don't know. That's so hard because it's like such a complicated thing with Frank, because you think he would, but then also it'd be really hard for him to even acknowledge Jamie to her. But then he, like, teaches her how to shoot and all these, like, different kind of things that it seemed like he was preparing her. So it's kind of like I'm back and forth on if I think he would have taken her.
Maybe he foresaw his own death in that way. I don't think he would have bought him. Her.
Yeah.
I think he would have put it in a will or something, or like some form of a will that showed that he, like, that pointed them to Scotland. He just died so abruptly. Like, that wasn't planned at all. But I do think if he'd lived, like, longer, he would have left something that pointed her that way, or something that encouraged Claire to tell her. Like, just in my opinion, if I think higher of him than I do some other times, he wasn't expecting to die that quickly. And I think that he would have wanted her to know eventually. He just wasn't ready to do it in the same way that, Claire was afraid to tell her for a different reason. But just our minds playing tricks on us. Yeah. No, I don't think Frank was going to tell her. But I do think that it was sort of a fail-safe hope that she would come across at some point. Yeah, me too. Same thing with Claire. He didn't have the kindness to actually tell her, but
he
would have. But I do think he found it. Yeah, same thing. I don't think he necessarily would have either. But yeah, and because this was the next one, we know this. We talked about it. He taught her to shoot, though he never shot himself. Like, no, he didn't shoot himself. He never would shoot himself in front of her. He taught him to do it because he would. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, he was sick of guns and death. I mean, he was a soldier, so. But the fact that he taught her how to shoot old weapons, that's really where it is for me. Like, he taught her how to shoot a gun from the time that her real father lived. Like,
and riding horses.
Yep, and ride horses.
She just felt like, just her in the past and living in that time, she feels so much more capable, like, than where Roger's at, And so it's like you have to think like Frank was actually preparing her, like, because she's just, there's so many of these situations that come up where she's pretty strong and thinks fast, and so it's impressive.
There's also the thing too of, like, I believe she was still planning to go into history when her father was alive too, though. So he could have even thought she would have stumbled across things eventually on her own. Like, not having been looked for Jamie, but if he had left certain hints in places, you know, he was curious about where his family was from when he was, you know, maybe she would be too. So there's also that of it. Like he didn't know was going to switch to what she did. So that is not engineering. She's engineering. The historian in him, I think, is interesting too. But yeah. Okay, keep it going. So this is I hate this man so much. So this I'll tell you, this does kind of piss me off about Claire. It doesn't piss me off how Bree feels about it, and we'll get to where she feels about it later. But it does irk me that Claire is like, "Why are you doing that?" When I'm like, "Girl, why do you think?"
Yeah.
It makes me so mad. I'm like, he raped your daughter. Like he deserves to have his toenails ripped off and his hands cut off. Like, I don't know. To me, she might want to say this is like stubborn Jamie or whatever, but I'm like, no, this is just, you should want that too. Like, I don't understand why she gets that way. I know she's worried he would like get hurt, but I'm like, it's your husband. He's going to be okay. It's like, I don't know. I hate Stephen Bonnet so bad. And like,
I kind of thought she also was like doing that too because of the way her daughter felt a little bit.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't know. It's just typical Claire, you know, going against what Jamie wants to do when he wants revenge and to go after somebody that's done something wrong. It was like the same thing when it was Black Jack, you know, and he wanted to go after him. She was like telling him no. Well, I mean, for different reasons, but
I was like, no, those are
for different reasons. But like, it's just, you know, and everything he went through, he can connect in a different level to what Bree's been through. And so, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's almost like she doesn't know her husband at all. I know. What about Jamie makes Claire think he'd stop? She doesn't want him in danger because Bonnet is dangerous, but really Claire, right? Yeah. It's weird. That's when like it bugged me about her that she'd be that way because I'm just especially because he's just doing inquiries. Like the thing that bugs me too is I'm also the thing that like you let him go once. This happened to Bree. Now, well, I don't blame Jamie for that. Like we talked about, like I don't blame him that his daughter got raped at all. Just like I don't blame Bree for fighting hard enough or whatever. But I do think that like you let him go, who else will get hurt by him? Like you now are aware of the threat he is. And if he had been aware of that threat before, he would never have let Stephen Bonnet hide in their wagon to begin with. He would be dead then. So to Jamie, not only is this a horrible thing that happened to his beloved daughter, but he sees it as a stain on his honor that he read this man wrong. He read someone wrong. He thought he was a lovable scoundrel like Jamie himself. Not that he would be that vicious about it, right? Jamie's been a smuggler for many years of his life and he isn't that. So I think it's a twofold reason why Jamie wants to take out Stephen. Like there's the main reason for revenge and justice for his daughter. And the second reason is who else is he out raping and abusing? And, you know, and we're going to see that come back around. Like who else is he going to hurt before we stop him? So
especially like all the rumors they hear, all the tales that are going on about Stephen Bonnet, it's like just becoming way worse. And he sees, you know, the big reach and connections and all that kind of stuff that he had it's just dangerous to have him out there like that.
Yeah. All right. Just quick on this one. Who do we think was trying to sabotage the weddings and the baptisms?
Okay, was it that guy? What's his name? He wanted to marry Jocasta. Was he the one doing it, or am I mixing up timelines? This
is where like I put this question
for the gold, right? So he could marry Jocasta.
Okay. Because it wasn't the thing that, because again, I get these questions from Reddit. And so this is people who haven't read it, who are answering in real time, like they're doing as they go. And it wasn't, in my opinion, that he was trying to stop the baptisms. It was the one marriage he was trying to stop. It's just that that priest was trying to do all the things. Like that priest was going to do the baptisms and 2 marriages. He only wanted to stop one, but the fallout is that nobody was going to get their stuff done.
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't necessarily one person trying to ruin everybody's day. He was just trying to stop one.
He's just trying to manipulate one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Jamie cannot let a threat stay on his family. Oh yeah. And unfortunately, we have a few years yet to go of his assholery. So, this is a really good part. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. So, what does Claire mean when she says that Jamie holds his life in her hands whenever they have relations, and that she holds his soul? This is such a good part. Well, there's many levels Diana could mean this on. I just want to know what people's like thoughts are on it without you having to know everything about it.
Stephanie.
I'm thinking for the right words.
I'm like, just what she's saying. I don't know.
Well,
no, I think it's because she loves him so much that whatever they do together, he is her everything, and vice versa, and she can't live without him. And without him, her soul is lost.
Yeah,
that's probably
that is to me the what's the word? The romantic reason. There, we'll use that. There is also a physical reason too. And it's because well, in my opinion, again, this isn't written, he holds my life in his hands is also a reference to she could still get pregnant. And Claire has almost died twice when she had a baby. And they talk about that a little bit. They talk about when she explains that she could have had she could have had her tubes tied before she came back. And she chose not to in case he wanted more kids, which I thought is wild.
I thought it was such a sweet conversation.
What?
I thought it was a sweet conversation too, because Jamie's like, why didn't you do this? Like, but it was like she was thinking of him and like, you know, giving him what he wants, even though it would put her life in danger. And then like just even free, like being worried about getting pregnant again. You know, it's like it's not just Claire, it's like women were in danger every time back then. So I thought it was a funny conversation because Jamie's like, I don't want any more kids. I'm good.
This is actually a quick interjection. This is one of the things I wish they'd explained in the show. Because in the show, spoilers for people here, she's like helping people with birth control slightly in the show. And it causes a whole side plot about like, oh, people are coming for her when she uses Daniel Rawlings' name to like send out pamphlets about family planning, basically. I think that was a perfect place in the show to talk about like what that like meant and like why she was so worried both for her and Bree that like that's a risk that they're taking. And it is very serious. There's a lot of people that we lose to that. But Ruth, the answer is yes. She's 5 years older than Jamie. He turns 50 in this book. So she is, but she was willing to risk it. She hasn't fully had menopause yet. She says that in a later book because we see her go through menopause later on. We will get to see that. So she still could. So, but it is interesting too, though, because back in book 1, Jamie says that he doesn't want any kids if it risks her. When he not watches, but when he hears Jenny giving birth, he says, I'd rather not have any kids because it's not worth it to lose you. And especially now after he's lived through losing her for 20 years, he's like, look at all the babies we have. Like, look at all the people we have to take care of. And, you know, later on that leads him to offer, like, would you like to adopt the Beardsley baby? And like, if you want a kid that you can like raise again, we can do that. And she's like, I'm good, man. Like, she basically was like, I didn't love the baby parts that much. So,
yeah.
But multiple women in Jamie's life have died giving birth. Absolutely. And he's very aware of the physical risks. Yep. Very true. Very true. Okay. We'll keep moving with this. So, last question, I think, for this part. And we're moving through here. And I don't feel bad that it took so long because this is like the biggest part in the whole book, part 1. A lot of the parts are like 3 or 4 chapters. How is Jamie able to handle walking between 2 fires? This is very important about this book. And the question remains, how well is he able to do it? To be honest, they aren't that far into anything. And him being one of the bigger landowners in the area, like, he's going to have people at him this whole time for both sides. And they're in such a tricky spot because with where they put the position they put themselves to get Fraser's Ridge, he basically has promised Lord Tryon that he'll be on his side, but his own self wants freedom, as well as Claire said, like, America's going to win. But what does that mean when you're living in the present, right? That is the interesting part of time travel, is like, if you put yourself in a time that is just before what you need, like, you can't force it to be, So they have to make it through. Like, it's a long time before the revolution's going to be over. We're only in 1972. We haven't even had Independence Day yet. Like, we got time to go, man. But
isn't it like 6 years or so? 5 years?
Well, it starts in 1776 is our 4th of July. So,
and then this is 71, right? Like this book?
Yes, it ends in 72. This conversation ends in 70. Their gathering is in October of 1970. And even once Independence Day, like, the war isn't over until, I think it's 81 or 82. Now my history's stretching. Maybe if someone listening knows, but I know it's not over once we sign.
I think it's 82, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's a ways. Like, we got 10 years of fighting to go, So who is he going to piss off before?
Yeah.
Then? It's very
But he's like getting everybody together to like swear allegiance to him instead of to the crown. So that people will follow him and not the crown or the rebellion on his land. He hopes to make it true that everything by that way. But it will be hard, I think.
Absolutely. And he tries to keep a good relation with both the regulators as well. Like, well, that's one of the questions. See, we were close. Thank you, Ruth. I was like, I know it's 83. I know I'm close. So, what am I saying here? Because it's like, he doesn't want them to have a reason to, like, hurt his land as well. Like, he do what he has to do. And
they can take away his land, right, if he rebels now.
Exactly. And it's not just about him. Like, it's not just him. It's all the people now that are there. And he wants them all to be as safe as possible. So growing up with Colin and Dougal was great practice. Yes. How to walk between 2 fires. That's a great point. Wonderful point to point out. But he's taking care of his family the best he can. Yes. Yeah, including making some interesting relationships. My wine is working too well, by the way. I can't form words. This was not a good plan to with the Beardsley twins, who are very wonderful characters. Those of you who don't know, I love the Beardsley twins. They're amazing. But thinking on the situation at the Beardsleys, is there one of them that is worse off than the other? Sorry, I didn't jump through my questions, but we jumped quite a bit now. So now we're in the part where, like, he's trying to get the Beardsleys so that he has some strong, like, boys who are on there, is what he said. Because I believe it's everyone 16 to like 60 that would have to be in the war if they get called up. So the Beardsleys, one of them particularly, he's a very good hunter, and so he wants to have people who are able to stay behind and take care
14,
of right. Yes. Who will take care of the ridge and who will, be able to do that when all the men are gone. Because I think Archbug doesn't have to go either, right? Because he's over 60. But
over 70, I believe.
Over 70. Okay. And he's pretty strong still. So he'd have them, but they don't have enough people who'd be able to keep the ridge going.
It's like a handful of people who either have some kind of injury or are too old or too young.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, this is true, Ruth. I'm sorry. It's also just my own tongue that gets a little blah, blah, blah. Mr. Bug is in the 70s. Okay, yeah, from 16 to 70, they'll have to go. And so yeah, but anyway, that gets to this question then, because this is also a part of the book that I think this show does so well. I love this episode about the Beardsleys because it's creepy AF. It's like a standalone episode almost. Not that anything in Outlander is standalone, but it's like a horror movie all put in one, and I love it so much.
Yeah.
But okay, so he goes to the Beardsleys because he promised to get their like paper of indenture because they're basically slaves to the Beardsleys. So they're not like really, they're not kids of his. They're not actually his sons. He'd like purchased their indenture. So he's going to go and like buy it off of them so that he can have them for sure. And in exchange, Claire's supposed to do tonsil surgery on them so they stop getting like not just strep throat, but like stop getting sick as much and everything. And so Jamie and Claire take a side quest. We send Roger to go handle what he's going to handle for us. And then we enter into the horror show that is the Beardsleys. Okay. This is terrifying. So is one of them worse off than the other, do you think? Mr. Beardsley had been abusing Fanny, yet she tortured him. Was she justified because of what had happened to her? Before we learn more, because Amanda's already shared what some of the other stuff means. But this is tricky to me. Actually, it is. Because I say that there's certain type of people I would like them to live a tortured life. I do think that. The sadistic and twisted type of torture she was able to come up with to do to him, though, what stuns me a little bit, right? That stuns me a little bit because it's like, if you could do that to this dude, what else are you capable of? Is the kind of thought that I have. Is that like, whoa? So,
yeah, when I was first reading this, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what is like where this came out of like left field but I mean, it's tough. I don't know, because it's like he was messed up, but I'm like, are you to go through that? Like where they were like, you're feeding him to keep him alive, and she's just like completely torturing him, and the guy just wants to be put out of his misery. I was just like, this is like a horror movie scene here.
Feeding him the moldy stuff, just to keep him alive.
Yeah,
making wounds on his legs.
Oh yeah, but Amanda's thing right there. When you get the bigger picture, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. We find out he's been married 4 times and all the wives are dead from abuse. And she also knew, like, that's the thing too, we'll get to, like, she also knew she was pregnant and that it probably wasn't his. So there's also some danger that could come from there. But yeah, it's a tough one to me. There are some people that I think deserve torture. I just do. I'm just trying to decide if he was actually a sadistic killer. Does it make it any better if he was just a drunk who abused people? Like, I don't know what the answer is. Do we actually know that he brutally killed each of them? Do we know that? Or was it just a dream she has where the lady comes to visit her? Like,
yeah, because that was weird too. I'm like, oh, is it a ghost? What's going on?
But that was the Rowan tree part, so that's really kept me out because I was reading it, and also on the television came the same tree, and then that woman stood behind him and she like choked him. That's why he was falling, because he choked her. That's the way he died. That was really creepy.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me. Yeah, it's tough. Like, I think he got what he deserved, but
But maybe he broke her so much that's why she resorted to these kind of tortures.
Yeah, because she was kind of blasé about it all when she's explaining everything. She's just like, whatever. Right. And so but I think that kind of threw them for a loop. And then when they find out all the other stuff, I think they were kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I kind of think he needed to be put out of his misery at that point.
Well, I think Jamie says it good too. He's like, I would put a dog out who was hurt less than this. And
yeah,
he's not wrong. And I mean, he gives him a chance to ask forgiveness and he doesn't. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
You take it, I guess. But okay, let's see what a few people say. This entire sequence gave me the creeps. I don't blame Fanny for leaving him to die, but the torture was too much. It really does raise the question of what else she's capable of, right? I know. It's a little bit. It's a lot. I don't think it was justified, but it was understandable. Fair enough. Was it right? No, but I felt bad for him. But did I feel bad for him?
I feel bad for him.
Right? That's how I feel. And again,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen this episode, when you see this in the show, this episode should have been up for like if it's an Emmy you get or whatever. Like it was so well done. It's like its own little horror film. And just as you find out more and more, it's like, what were those boys like dealing with too? We know he beat them. He like hit one so hard he can't like hear out of his ear. Like there's more and more to it. So I think Amanda hits it of like, it wasn't right, but he deserved it. Because it's easy to say like, oh, who is she going to turn him into? Who would have ever listened to him? Like we even talk about like she belongs to him, and she ends up cuckooing him in the end anyway, because a little half black baby is going to inherit all of his things. And I think that is a just reward for him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also love, okay, this is kind of cute. I know this is a side thing, but like Jamie doesn't know what like a black child would look like when they're born because he's never seen them before. I don't know. I love whenever there's scenes where Jamie's curious about like medical things because he doesn't know them and his wife knows.
What's the naming for it though?
Yeah.
That was, I never knew that was what was they would call it. And I was like, what now? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think that's so interesting. Like whenever he doesn't know something and hadn't seen it. But how would he have? There weren't a lot of people.
Like the microscope scene when he's looking at
We'll get there. Let's skip to the sperm. That's
sorry.
Jamie did the right thing. Love it. Man, I seriously remember nothing because you don't know what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you need to do your reread. See, guys, I'd asked Becky to join even if she hadn't done a reread yet. And she's like, I can't remember anything. So I was like, okay.
I was forgetting everything already. And I just read it. And I was like, oh no, Jen, I don't know if I'm going to be good on this. Because I feel like I forgot a lot. And I'm like, when did this happen? When I was mixing everything up.
We won't get into that stuff. Okay. This too. We learn there's some scenes in this too where like Jamie is kind of calling on the like ghost of Dougal to like help him be a certain way for things. But he reveals this aspect, which I can't remember. I think we talked about this in a previous hangout, and I didn't realize we didn't find it out until this one. I just always knew that he was the one who attacked him, and I forgot where we find out, but Jamie like confirms with Claire that like Dougal's the one who tried to kill him not long before Claire like met them. From France. Dougal was just like, I'll take this opportunity to take him out. No one will know. And then he'll be gone. And Dougal had said it was always going to be you or me. And I just want to ask, like, why do you think Dougal thought that? With what he knew at the time, too, to remember this. Like, what he knew about Jamie when Jamie was coming back from where he was. When he was, like, 20 years old, 21 years old. Well, he would have been 22. Is he 22 when we meet him? 21? I don't know. Either way, he hadn't been with them. Like, they were literally coming back from getting him, I think. Isn't that when they were, what it was? I don't know. Either way.
I think so.
Why do you think Dougal thought that?
I think I could just sense that, especially with who Jamie is and his family and everything, like he's a threat. And I know it's bad, but I still love Dougal. Even though I just love him.
Again, do you love show Dougal or book Dougal?
Yes. Yes. I think
because book Dougal doesn't really have many great qualities. He really doesn't.
I know. I think it's the show Dougal that's in my head, and he's so like hot and got swag, and I'm just like, I love him.
Like show Dougal and show Murtagh are the two characters that have replaced their book character for me. Everyone else, I kind of have two versions of people in my head.
Can I ask Jen, why do they keep Murtagh going on in the show, but he's not in the books? Like, maybe that's another conversation.
No. Like, I know, like, I I bring up the show enough that it's fine. It was completely because they like the actor. It's the same reason they made Frank more likable than he is. They love the actor.
Yeah.
And they decided to keep him alive because they didn't, it's one of those, they didn't see the body mentioned, so let's keep him alive. And he's really who becomes in this season of the show, he becomes the person who's the leader basically of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Because it's a character we know already. I think instead of creating someone else, they're like, let's put him in here. But I hate that because then when he dies, it like changes something else about how like Jamie reacts to things. So it's like it's one thing if they kept him alive, but we only kept him alive so that he could die in this season. I don't know. I don't love it. Don't love it. So yeah. They did it because they liked him and they could. But it pissed a lot of people off. Dougal was a pretty astute man. I think he recognized something special. Yes. Because they're, again, the person who like made this question for it on Reddit. Like, Dougal knew that Jamie, yes, was a threat because he could be someone who became layered. Like, we talk about that back when it happens. It's one of the reasons Dougal was happy when he was able to marry Claire off to him, because now he was married to an Outlander and they would never make him laird of Clan Mackenzie. Because, like he knew his brother wasn't going to live forever. It was a miracle his brother was still alive then, basically. And if there was a vote, Dougal didn't know if he would win. So if he got rid of him before people got to know him and got to love him back in Leoch, then maybe he could get away with it, So. And
Jamie's such a natural leader. Like, he probably recognized all of that in him and just
look how it happens now. Like he gets asked constantly to lead stuff and be the one who sees things up. So he was a Mackenzie and Colin would die. Yep, that's right. You hit it, Christina. I could have sworn we learned it was Dougal earlier, but Dougal always saw Jamie as a threat because he could actually get the clan to follow him. Dougal, I think, was always worried about losing power. Yes. I don't remember if it's earlier in the book. I think I said in one of ours. It's like, I know I mentioned it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe I said so and not.
Because it's like because in this one, I was like, did we know that already? But I'm like, I think it was like, it was up in the air as like, did he really do something? It was kind of, we didn't really fully know. But then in this, he's like, oh, I've come to terms, like whatever about Dougal. And then she realizes this is why, that. And I think it was good for her because she felt so guilty about him, killing Dougal, like also to protect her and to find out that Dougal was going to kill him. Yeah. So he's like come to terms with it. He's at peace with what happened.
Yeah. I think at some point Claire says, which is fair enough. Just look at how much Jamie was asked to do on a first date. I know, right? It's why it's brought up in this. Not only is it the very good, long, no, what's it called? The very good, very no good, whatever. Long day that they have. It's exhausting to be the laird. Like even says it, like they can't even he can't walk from point A to point B without someone wanting to give him a drink and talk to him and find out. So
even those like guys that work for the Crown of the military, they all want to like get like in touch with him and get him to speak on their behalf and things like that. It's like he just has that.
Okay, so now I don't have like questions. Well, I have the questions, but I didn't copy and paste them all. So I have them on my sheet here. Hold on. Let me do it this way. So the next one was, boop, boop. We're skipping a bit now. So Roger came across Brianna's dream journal. Did he invade her privacy by reading this?
Yes. Yes. I mean, I didn't mind that he did it because I wanted Roger to have insight on Bree and what she's going through. But I mean, I think that's definitely, I wouldn't want somebody going through my journals. I don't have any, but if I did.
Yeah. Not his finest moment. But we forgive him.
Yeah, it's like when my son was trying to keep a journal and then I, just took a peek at it. And he only wrote in it when he was in trouble. So it was ranting about his mom. And I'm like, okay, I don't need to read this.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Yes, he did. Everyone agrees. So we're good about that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so things start to get super complicated. And this is where I don't even know what's going on. Okay, when we're at River Run for wedding take 2, we go to River Run for wedding take 2. We see a bunch more characters again. So many characters. But we also first have Betty getting like super drunk and sick. And then we have her that she ate glass and dies from it. We're just pushing these all together, both of these. And like, who was the killer and who was trying to be killed? This one's so confusing to me. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is one of like that. It was
the drink she drank for Duncan.
Yes.
So she had the drink with the laudanum in it, or how do you call it?
Yeah.
So she got really sick from it, and they were afraid she was gonna tell that it was for Duncan, so they killed her to shut her up.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember too, because there is something bigger going on that isn't explained in this one. So again, because it's all a blur to me about that part of it as well.
And
so
isn't it also again about the gold? Because they didn't want her to marry Duncan, so they want him to die or something like that. He had to drink the whole glass and die, but he didn't. So, and I think Christina is already saying it. Wolf tried to kill Duncan. I think that was the part that was happening. But it was a bit confusing though. We didn't know what happened until almost the end of the book, I think.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of our mysteries that gets started. But just thought I'd throw it out here. I can't remember though if Wolf was the one trying to do the poisons, because there is someone.
I thought he was the one, right? Because he's the one that wanted to marry Jocasta, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought he was the one that like did that drink so that Duncan wouldn't be able to marry her, and then I just assumed he killed her so that nobody find out. I can't remember.
I'm trying to remember, but I think there is 2 parties involved with her trying to kill her, and I think one of them was an accident, which is the one that was meant for Duncan, and then I think one of them was on purpose. But I'm pretty sure we find out why in a later book, so I don't want to say. But I could be wrong about that. But there is definitely someone else, and that has to do with the gold. And I know that that's all the way like near the end, but since we're kind of talking about it, we're just going to bring it up now.
Yeah.
Since we're here, about like what we find out at the end, because Wolf ends up getting killed, right? Wolf gets killed because someone's died when they get back. And we find out that like Stephen Bonnet was involved in this, and that like Philip Wiley has a connection a little bit, as well as Jocasta has the gold. So we find out more about what happened with that. That it was like split into the parts, and that they all brought people, and Jocasta was there, and she believes there's like a curse on this gold too. You know, like so many people have died that are connected with it, which it's that same thing of like, is the gold cursed, or is it just people wanting it and then they killing the people that have it? You know, and this is a gold, like this gold is going to be mentioned until our dying breath in this series, just so everybody knows. Like, in my opinion, this is the most not my opinion, this is the most like tangible look we have at it through the series. It's getting more and more broken down as we go, but of course Stephen Bonnet wanted in on it. We want to use him as like a smuggler for everything. But Jocasta shares her story about how she lost her daughters, and how we learn more about how she lost more of her husbands, and she's just had such a like tragic life. You know, she may be wealthy now and where she is, but she can't see. She's lost a husband she really loved, and now her new husband, he ain't going to be satisfying her at all. Poor guy.
Poor guy.
Eunuch or something like that. So yeah, it's a lot. Like there's a lot. Jocasta's an interesting character. Right. Wasn't expecting to actually see it. I know. It's in a super clever place though, for real. Yeah, the gold. Okay. Oops, I need to stop going over there. My questions are right here. Okay, so this is the one, this gets everybody wild up. And every time I read it, I'm not quite sure who it is because I don't know. Who do you think was Claire's midnight visitor?
I have no idea. Like, I'm like, is this gonna get resolved? Because that was not Jamie. I'm like, I don't think it's Jamie because he was drinking, doing that gambling, whatever, game. And then I thought he was like almost passed out on the stairs or something outside. And I felt like he would like make himself known to her. But I'm like, who is it? I don't know.
I didn't know either.
I've read it 4 times, y'all. I still don't know. I usually do think that it is Jamie, but it doesn't make sense to me that he wouldn't hint at it more and that he wouldn't like just admit it.
I just wanted to ask. I'm like, can you say something so we can know?
But I know why she didn't. I know why she didn't.
And then imagine he's like, who's playing with my wife's feet? Or touching my wife in the middle of the night? Like,
yeah, and it's kind of like, who, because if she asks him, then he'll want to know who it was and go after them.
Yeah.
So I get why she doesn't ask, but
want to know.
I don't think it's ever confirmed. I don't think it's ever confirmed who it actually is. So he wanted to meet Jamie, but I don't think it was. He would have mentioned it if he went actually into the room. So my question though is, so Amanda says, I think that it could have been a dream. I think she was having a fever dream and that she was touching herself. That's my opinion. Is that she's dreaming it.
Or maybe it's Stephen Bonnet. He gets involved in every situation. He just comes in there to mess with them.
I don't think it was him, but that's my view that I stand on now. Is she says she's sure she's awake, but there's plenty of times in our dreams where we can like think we're awake.
Yeah.
So I upon rereading it, I do either think it was Jamie, because also wouldn't have he seen who was leaving? That's kind of the thing, is I think he would see someone leaving from there. Because it wasn't long after that, So I think it could have been a dream, personally. I think that it could have been. I think if a few of us talked, it didn't sound like Jamie. I think he would have gone into the room to watch her sleep. Oh, funny. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the right
answer. Has anybody ever asked Diana this question? Because we can get this. I'm like, I need to know.
I have never seen an answer to this one. Nobody ever asked about this one. I'll put that in my bank for when I get to interview her someday before I die. So. Before she dies, more like it is what it is. So, okay, this is a good question too. While we're kind of talking about the end, even though we have much more to talk about in the middle. Let's see if this will go through it. Does this one fit? Yeah. So, it's split between the two. But the question here is, Stephen Bonnet had an accomplice. Do you think it was the third man who knew about the gold? Do you have any theories about who it might be? Since Yocasta was she would have recognized. Oops, people are skipping. That she would have recognized.
The man that didn't say anything.
Gold.
Mm-hmm. The doctor, right?
No one ever says Amanda, by the way, because I think that. But maybe I missed it somewhere. We'll look in future books. But we kind of let that go after it happens. I don't know why that scene's even in there if we never find out. But
she just wanted to mess with us.
Right. So who do you guys think the third man in? This is a great question, because this is a mystery that will get answered, of course. Like I said, the gold isn't going anywhere. We'll find out who the accomplice is eventually and who the third man was. But Yocasta doesn't know who it is. Yeah. I think it will surprise you guys so much.
I was like, maybe it's the guy that knows about the gold, but then I was trying to figure out how Stephen Bonnet, remember how he found out about it, and I don't think it was that way. It was like somebody that saw where the gold was, right? See, I'm trying to remember.
I have no clue. I don't remember how he found out. I think, doesn't he just say he has connections? Like if there's stuff, because he's like, I'm a smuggler and a pirate, like people get a hold of me. Like I don't think it's ever really said who it is.
Oh, okay.
He thought it could be the doctor, but that was there.
Yeah, I thought it was when the doctor after his death or something that they were like talking about that, but I don't.
Yeah. Okay.
So much happens at that end part, that's like so much wasn't happening and then all this stuff happens at once that's revealed.
Okay, moving along. So I don't have like a question put up for this, but we see Jamie turns 50 in this book, and he has some fun comments to say about that. It's crazy to me that he's only 50 at the same time. Like,
yeah,
it's been a long time. But yeah, so Jamie's 50, that happens. I guess I don't really have a question about it. I was like, he reflects on his age a little bit, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so now that's what I wrote. Now we're getting to some of the like fighting that happens, though there isn't really much. There's kind of a like spoiled-ish battle going on, a little bit of a skirmish here. Hold on. It had to be someone Yokasa would recognize, but I have no idea who it is. Yes, correct. It is someone she would know. Someone we know very well, too. Okay, so this one, now Jamie sends Roger on a little mission for him to try to get, like, the white flag, and he's going to get into a whole lot of trouble, and going to involve some of my favorite scenes in this book, even though they break my heart. But why does Roger keep kissing people? Okay? I don't understand this. Especially
I don't get it.
He's your relative. It's weird. So...
I have no idea. It's funny when I was looking stuff up about it, like there were so many people talking about Roger kissing everybody. Like, just stop. Don't.
I know it's so
But
dumb.
can I say, can Jamie stop sending Roger off to do things on his own when he's not really capable of?
No,
he gets
don't say
himself
that.
into
Don't
that
say
situation.
That's show Roger talking to you. This is him.
Okay, that is probably.
Yeah, that is show Roger talking because he messes up. Because we didn't talk about it. Roger does a wonderful job when he goes to the town this time. That's something that pisses me off in the show. They make him look like an absolute imbecile and Jamie's disappointed at him in the show.
Yeah.
That's not what happens here. He proves himself. Roger's proved himself to him many times. So he sends him on this thing. And I do think that the kissing was such a dumb. Because it just gets him in so much more trouble.
Yeah.
But
I did like this scene too with him and that guy. I don't remember the names. That was like who they were trying to reach out to kind of talk to the rebellion. And when they're like kind of just holding hands and talking, he feels like this like connection. I really loved that scene of like Roger kind of feeling more in the moment. And I think he did a good job of like trying to reach that guy. And he did. The guy was trying to get everybody to stop doing it, but it's kind of a chaotic scene for him.
Yeah.
With the kissing, maybe he's just really affectionate to people.
I know. I don't know. So this kind of touches on it. So Jamie assigns Roger to talk to Herman's husband in an effort to avoid the fighting. Was Roger the right person for this job? Because the question is, why does Jamie think he's the right person for the job? Why does he think he'd be good at it? It isn't just because he's his son-in-law. So I want to know why people think he would send him to do it.
I think he's really grown to trust Roger and built a better connection with him. And Roger is good with people. Like, people go to him for things and they, want his opinion or like just advice on stuff. So I think there's so much more, like, he's a lot more sociable and like able to connect with people. And because it seemed like too with like the whole religion aspect or different things, kind of people were going to him or thinking he's a priest or whatever, this or that. But like, so I felt like he would be a good person to kind of try and reach out to that Herman character.
Yeah. Yeah. Roger should have had an exit plan to get out after talking to husband. Why did Roger think people wouldn't be suspicious of him? Well, wasn't he carrying a white flag with him though?
Like,
I don't think so, because then he hid his like thing too. Like he hid his like whatever thing that said they were the militia.
He was walking with his flag.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They gagged him with it afterwards.
Yeah. That's what I mean, is they broke the rules.
Yeah.
They broke the rules of conduct. It was awful what they do. You know, that's one of the like tried and true rules you're supposed to follow is
Mhm.
the person had the white flag, he was there to talk. Because that's how you end battles. There's plenty of people that don't want to fight and die. Like nobody wants to die. So when it comes through with it, you save them. And if he hadn't run into the wrong person and be kissing people, like it did what it was supposed to do. And they're able to you know, they're able to turn everyone like against him and lie about who he was. Like it was awful. So yeah, like my answer of this too is I do think he's good with people. I think that I don't know if he decided it by the end of this book or not, but you know, when Roger decides to follow in the footsteps of his adopted father, later on, I think that Jamie sees those aspects in him already, that people like to talk with him. He's very friendly. He's doesn't have the countenance of a warrior, and that's not a bad thing to Jamie. Jamie doesn't see that as a bad thing because he knows there needs to be men of peace and things like that. So very interesting. I think Jamie knows Roger can talk to people, and Roger's first instinct isn't to fight. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, that's part of it too, is like Jamie almost would have like went himself, but he's like, they might be too tempted to like take him prisoner if it was him, you know, if you go one step down. So I thought he had the white flag, but he didn't use it. It was in his pocket until he gets gagged with it. Oh, okay. So I thought I didn't think he was like waving it, but I thought he was like.
I think he held it up and then he put it away, but I'm not sure now.
Yeah. Well, he gets attacked when he's like on his way back. So he may have been like, oh, I put it in my pocket and like didn't take back out. I don't remember it, but he was able to get in using it. It's that he didn't get out with it. And that's the problem. So then we get to one of the most powerful scenes in the thing. I thought I had the white flag, but didn't use it. Okay, we already read that. And we have, of course, what happened. What did you think or feel when reading Roger's point of view while he was hanging? Did you think that he was going to die? I mean, I know we probably didn't, but people who read this for the first time, like, what are you thinking? This is one of the, like, this whole sequence is so powerful to me.
It was traumatizing, you know? It was a lot.
Yeah. I thought he was going to die. I thought, oh my God, he's going to die. They changed it in the show because he was seeing the light. So she described it really well, Diana.
Yeah.
We haven't like talked about it too much. I know Roger baby and his beautiful voice. Like that is such a sad part. Like we'll get into, we'll talk about now, like the depression he goes into. I like totally understand. And he wasn't just a singer for his own joy. Like he brought joy to the whole community on the ridge. And Jamie loved that he could sing. Like Jamie, who himself can't sing. And I think he even mentions in here too that he thinks he went deaf because of some situations he was in. Though he never had good tone, he used to still be able to hear music well, and now like he doesn't hear, like he can't hear, but he knows that Roger is very like beautiful. His voice is very beautiful. So it's just so sad because it's just, you know, we're so happy he's alive. Like I remember the first time reading this of just, I had no clue either. Like I figured he would live, but this isn't technically a romance novel. I didn't know like what it would be like. And so when they get there and she notices that like, you know, they go to pick him up and he still like he takes a breath when they like lift his legs. And when she does the surgery with her eyes closed, is such a powerful scene. Like that whole scene, like I'm not great with like the gore stuff, but I'm actually really good with I love her medical scenes because the way that they're told is so medical. And even when like the gross parts are mentioned of it, she mentions it in such a clinical way of like the blood was getting in my way, which obviously if you were seeing that, it would be like, oh my God, he's bleeding. But when she's explaining it, it's like for her, she's like, no, I need to get it out of the way. And to make sure that I can save him. Because
it's not like she had suction or whatever, like she wouldn't. It's like, yeah, like my mom, like as a nurse and worked in the medical field and ICU and stuff, and she like loves the medical stuff in this book, which is really hard to do when it's like somebody that's done that. You know, usually it's not done right or feel authentic, and so I just like it was just so sad with his singing and everything, because too, like I liked in this where he thought Jamie looked down on him, oh, the singer or whatever, but then he finds out Jamie actually like really appreciated that, and it helped. And like even like at the fiery cross scene, you know, where they're all sitting out there, he's singing to them for like hours, you know, and then he couldn't do that. It was just so sad, and seeing like Bree try to be there for him, but you know, and he's so depressed, and it was just
yeah, like he's saying at funerals, he's saying at like all these important events, and to just have it taken away from him, it was so hard. It was so sad. Oh, this one is good. I got too overwhelmed with it, and the medical part of my brain could not believe he survived. Yeah. And I'm sure that was stretched a little bit of like he was deprived of oxygen for a good amount of time. But luckily there was still some, like that's the thing. There was still a little bit.
But it could also take a long time before someone dies from a hanging if he didn't break his neck, right? And he also was very tall, which
they used she explains all. They used a new rope. They used horses to go out from under, which is a horrible way to do it because it's not a sudden drop. You can hold on to a horse with your legs as you get dragged off. And if you aren't heavy enough to do it, like that's why like hangman, she says like hangmans were like a job, like an executioner was a job. And if you were lucky, like in let's say in like England, like they would pick a very skilled executioner to kill you mercifully, you know, whether it was or a, you know, a hanging or whatever. So it's just so sad, but it's such a powerful scene though. It's so hard. And watching him lose himself, yes, so hard. Losing his voice was so sad. The injury he got from Dougal caused him. Yes, okay. I knew it was mentioned in this one. Why, like he could hear music before. He still couldn't sing before, but he could hear music, and now like he just hears like a tone. He doesn't hear it.
He hears the drums.
Yes, he can hear the drums. And that's why he can still do like the sword dance. Like he can still do a sword dance to the beat because he can feel a beat, even if he can't hear the music. Yeah. Also a nurse, and this is probably one of the best pieces of media that does medical stuff. Usually I can't because it's too unbelievable. So one other note though, sorry to budge in, but Diana Gabaldon, that was one of the things she did as a job too, I believe was like, it had to do with like writing up something medical. Apologies for not knowing the exact thing by saying that, but because she used to write like certain articles when she was in college and do stuff, and a lot of it had to do with like researching into medical things. So she knows how important those pieces are by having Claire be a nurse and then a doctor. But you're right, a lot of people don't even try because the person who's writing the book doesn't know, so they just throw in some medical jargon and hope you know. But there's always someone you can't fool unless you really do a good job, right? Like I bring this up multiple times. Like I read a book about that had dairy farming in it, and the author made up shit. Like it's not how it works. And so 95% of the people reading it, they won't notice, but someone who lived there and saw it was like, bullshit, you barely even read a textbook about it, you know, like, you know, and
you did no research.
right, you didn't look at what's their schedule every day, how often are they need to be in the barn, and guess what, she couldn't be gone for 4 days if she didn't have anyone helping on her farm. You can't do that. But no, I love the medical stuff, and that's a good point to mention a few because I don't have any specific questions for that. Is I love the invention she's starting to push. I love Breeze as well. Those different things she's trying to be like, oh, when was this first invented, so that she can make it and have it not ruin anything. You know, like the piping she wants to lay so they can have like piping like water and stuff. It's like, when was this invented? So that I can use it. And like she makes the hypodermic needle for what we're going to get to. That's some stuff. I love all the inventions that Brie does in this so much. It's some of my favorite stuff. The different things she makes, and but yeah, I love the medical parts of it. But that's
what made me impress Brie so much in this book, is like she's so smart and just gets in there and tries, does everything she can. So it's like, I don't know. I just was really impressed with her.
They're trying to avoid being accused of witchcraft again. Correct. What did Jamie's reaction and confrontation with Tryon, I spelled that wrong in all of these, tell us about his feelings for Roger? What does Jamie do when he tries to strangle Tryon? He calls Roger his son for the first time. He says, you almost cost me my son. And I love that scene so much. It makes me, I could cry right now from my alcohol and emotion. I love that so much because, he's called Fergus his son. He's seen young Ian as a surrogate foster son. He's calls the girls he adopted when he married Marcelite his daughters, and to call Roger his son is so sad. It's happening in that context, but it's also such a powerful scene. So he is,
because I didn't think they could get there after what happened in the last book, So it's like they've come so far in this book and in their relationship, and that's one of the things that I loved was seeing them actually like trust and depend on each other, and so I just love that.
It's such a good part. This next little bit we're talking about a bit here is where I think Jamie and Roger bond like the most. Not only because he will help him fight. That's one of the next questions that I have actually is about that. But Jamie knows what it's like to be completely like beaten by his trauma and not want to go on, even having a loving wife and things like that. And though they're very different types of trauma, they still were a life or death situation. And Jamie wanting to find things that help Roger feel like a man again and that he can provide however he can. Like, that's the thing too. He wasn't even good at any of the other stuff. And now he also can't use his voice, which was the thing he felt like he brought to them, being able to sing and like do music again. And then that's gone, it's no wonder that it gets so like heavy for him. It's really difficult. Rooting for Jamie to beat the crowd. I know. I was like, just take one punch. Just take one punch out of him. Okay.
Then he gives the land, like that's gonna solve it. Like take it. It's like
yeah. So that was the next question. I'm not gonna enter it in. I'll just tell you guys. So they gift them with 5,000 acres. Is that good compensation? Is what the question was. Like, was that worth it? And I actually don't know about that because I do kind of think it was worth it. That is a lot that he gave him. And what's done is done. Like, it's awful. Yeah. Roger wasn't able to speak for himself. And I'll be serious too. I kind of feel bad for Tryon at the same time because he made an enemy of Jamie and like didn't mean to. Like, him and Jamie were always going to come up against each other eventually. Like, it's going to happen. But like Tryon really was like, he wasn't trying to do something evil. He was listening to the people and he needed to punish someone, so he did. He just picked the wrong damn bro to do it to, because now Jamie, they're never like, he was always wary of him, but now he's never gonna trust him again. So yes, there's some things that money like can't buy, but that's how insurance claims and things work anyway. How much is your life worth? How much are if you're a doctor, how much are your hands worth that you'd be paid for? And it's like, yeah, I mean, it was a really good gift. Obviously, he's trying to make nice with Jamie because since Jamie's his son-in-law and a part of his group, like it's basically Jamie's too, what he gave him, but not cool, bro. Not cool. Emotionally, it's not, but also Tryon did what he could. Yeah, it's true.
Because he could have done nothing. Like, he could have just been like, sorry, like, which a lot of other people might have done that. And so, and that's a good amount of land for, him to be able to have on his own, to be able to raise his family, build with his family. Obviously, it doesn't make up for anything, but.
Yeah. I'll do one more about this. And we're past the hump of this for sure. we're past the big hump. We're getting there. Because so much happens in the first half. You're right. Like the stuff at the first time we're at River Run just drags out for ages, and also that first bit, but then it really gets pushing. So the next question here was, okay, so also to add in, like, Roger finds out that Stephen Bonnet is still alive too. You know, Jamie, I believe, gives him that information of where they don't know where he is exactly, but they know where that he is using Wiley's Landing, and so he will be there eventually. Like, he's going to come back through again. And Roger asked Jamie to teach him to fight. And do you think that it was smart of Roger to diversify his skills? And do you think he'll be any good at fighting?
I think it's smart. Like, he needs to diversify his skills, and to learn from somebody like Jamie is just going to help him not just protect himself or in the Bonnet situation, but protect his family and to be like an asset too in the future. So, and I think he could be good at it. I mean, I think Roger, see, that's the thing again, I'm trying to take myself away from the show Roger to like the book Roger. And I think the book Roger would be good at it. Like, and he has a lot of passion in this book to learn. And, you know, like, I like that scene where that guy was trying to do something against him and like do the sword battle or whatever. And kind of, he was drunk or whatever. But I definitely think he can handle it, and he has a good teacher. So
yeah. At the end of the day, he's still an over 6 foot tall Scotsman who's very strong. Like, he's only a couple inches shorter than Jamie, and he's huge and tall and big. So learning how to use that body to save yourself and your family is definitely a good thing. The other little bit of it of, do we think he'd be like good at it? Again, I think you can good enough at anything with practice. But the question will be, will he be a man who can like use his fists or use a sword or fight? Or will he be too compassionate for when he's facing someone? You know, we think of Jamie, who he's able to turn that off when he's fighting. He's still a very humane, kind, loving person, but when he's at war, he's able to like compartmentalize and do it. And I don't know if Roger would be good at that. As Jamie was. So it's a good idea, even without Bonnet, the time they live in, it's important. Yes. And to me, this is another part too of like, you know, Jamie being his like dad, like, you know, being a son to him, is that he needs to know those things, and it gives them a chance to bond as well. And it also impresses Jamie that he like asked him to do that. And I believe during one of these is when I don't think I have a question for this, but when Bree finds out like why he's getting fighting lessons, and she's so angry, and she has one of those confrontations like with her dad of being like, I don't want this, and he's like, shouldn't I get a say because it happened to me? And Jamie's like, no, you don't, because it's your husband who needs to feel like he's protecting. And I love those kinds of conversations so much. I think they're so good to remember. And I think they really speak as well to the feminist sides of us now, of the parts of us who want to stick up for ourselves. And it's like, your man standing up for you isn't all about you, which I know sounds weird, but like, it isn't all about you. It's them being able to prove that they can protect you, and that they would, because it helps them feel secure in the fact that they can provide for their family. And, you know, Bree being like, well, whatever, like, I can shoot, I can do this, it's fine. And it's like, yeah, but sometimes you can't, babe. Like, sometimes you can't. Like, remember Jamie's lesson of like, you're tall and strong for a woman. You are, but most men are still going to be stronger than you, even if they're not as big as you, and like they're going to be able to beat you. Like, I think it's very important. So Roger mentioned in the last book that he was often in hand fights. Learning to use a sword is great, considering he has found out that he isn't great at shooting.
Oh yeah, with his like vision and stuff.
Yeah. Probably not going to become a trained warrior, but a good idea to know how to handle it. Right. And also to not be a danger with it. That's another side of things of why you should, well, and why even like, of course he needed the gun training too, because it isn't just about being able to like aim well. You need to be able to safely handle them, to use it maybe he's a loader for someone. Like they had those then too, is like, you need to be the one who can quickly load this weapon. They would trade him back and forth. So I think it's very good. He's learned to propel his skills. Love it. I think Roger would be good at anything he puts his mind to. He's willing to work for what he wants. That's right, Ruth. Roger Club. I'm in Roger fan club so much. I love him. I didn't put a question about this too, but we have the powerful moment when he does like speak for the first time, when Jem is gonna like hurt himself and he's able to like yell at him.
Yeah.
And from there it's like he needs to work on his like therapy and stuff. And so that's why I think again, I don't have a question for this one, but when Roger, where's I going with this? When he does go to do the survey the land for a few months and has kind of his like, climb the mountain type of moment, I think it's good for him because it's like he can also practice on singing and talking without anyone hearing him and not feeling bad about it. I think that's important. So,
yeah.
All right. Okay. Getting into it. Just a little bit left here. We have one of my second favorite parts of the book is when they go on a buffalo hunt, which is very interesting that there's buffalo where they were at. But yes, buffalo used to roam a lot of places that they don't now. And Jamie gets hurt and he doesn't want to live without his leg. But first, like he almost dies on the way home. They have a long way to take him. Do you think that his fears and reasons are true, like are good for when he got hurt? His reasoning to not want to be helped.
I thought it was a powerful moment in the book. And also, he didn't want to have his fate in someone else's hands, because when you lose such a significant part of yourself, in that time it would be difficult to navigate. And he's such a strong, tall man who always fought for himself.
Yeah.
It would take away a part of him, I think. So that's...
Yeah. I just love this whole sequence. This was another place that the show pissed me off. I told you season 5 was my least favorite because in this season we already had Ian back and Ian like chews him out because his dad doesn't have a leg. So he's like, how dare you say you can't live without a leg? My dad is living without a leg. And I hate that in the show so bad.
That doesn't even seem like young Ian would be like that, you know? Like
it wasn't, because each man is different. Each man is different. And for me, like my things on it is that I understood why he said that. Because for Jamie, who he is and the role he has, he just couldn't, he knows he wouldn't be himself if he couldn't. And that wouldn't be good for him or any of his loved ones if he couldn't be himself. He has to be this type of man that he is. But I also love that Claire is like, no fucking way. Like, this is a choice you don't get to make, and it's interesting to me though, because there is kind of a two-sided of a coin of like, Jamie said many times, like, this person needs a reason to live. Like, there's people, this isn't the only person, and they had the conversation right earlier about put me out of my misery if I'm ever like what the Beardsley guy was. Like, don't let me have to be like this. And for Claire, it's like, this is not the same situation, right? Like, you would still be vital, like, without a leg. Like, you would still be okay. And he's just like, no, I don't want to. But then we have the very scary night. And there's a very interesting scene where Jamie asks Claire to touch him while they're in bed. And I just want to hear some people's thoughts on it. I love this scene so much. And it just shares something about her characters that no other authors really like convey to me the way Diana does. But yeah. Let me just leave my family. See if anyone in the comments thinks about it. Given the difficulties of where they live, Ian knowing what he does about Ian's injury, Jamie fears are valid. Yeah. Well, and he's seen Fergus. Fergus doesn't have a hand in how like tough that is for him to provide for his family. So also don't think the right answer is to just let him die. Correct. So the touch him scene for me, I get chills every time I read that, because to me, I always say when I read this, like, of the people who are from the past times, I think Jamie is the closest to magical. Like, I do think that he has something. There'll be scenes later on there's scenes we've seen before. He just has this strange, like, connection with the other side, particularly, right? Like, when he can feel Dougal in places, and when he'll have conversation, like, he'll think of blackjack sometime and like feel him. Like, I just think he has more of a connection to that than we think. And so when he literally is like, to die would have been so much easier, but he wanted to stay for Claire. Like, he said, he's like, I only stayed for you. Like, it was just me, I wouldn't be here. And when Claire like touches him, and in this way that, like, to me, it's showing a few things, the way that Diana loves to do, is that their connection is through touch. I've said this many times, like when they're having fights or when things aren't going well, like they need physical reconnection. Even when they're fighting, they'll have sex sometimes because it helps bring them back to like this place. And though that wasn't a full-on thing, like, she is touching him in a very specific place he asked to be touched, because that's the part of him that's like the closest to her, if that makes sense. It's weird to talk about it, but I feel like the physical like pleasure that those two can share, it like brings him back to his body and doesn't let him like leave. But I mean, it's definitely, like, I know the scene raises some people's eyebrows, but to me, it just shows how deeply they're connected that way through their physicality. And he needs to be reminded as well, like, why he needs to stay when like dying would be easier. And he could be with his daughter and with his parents. And like it's really calling him, you know? And he chooses to stay even though it's gonna hurt a lot more. And I just love that. I love that. He wants to die being touched. Oh, don't even say that to me.
Oh my gosh.
That is not cool, lady. But no, that's probably true. I think Jamie also wanted Claire to ground him. Yep. Gotta stay away for it. How he says she only has touched him to hurt him for the day. Yes. And wants something that feels like that is so true. Like, oh, it's just gut wrenching. All of the final touches she'd given him had been, you know, she had to like cut open his leg and like put maggots on him and like, you know, pour boiling water in him is what she might have to do, you know, like that. Awful. Like, and to not have any type of, well, she gives him pain stuff, right? She makes him get drunk when she's gonna do the one thing, but still, that's not the same. He wanted to feel his wife's touch. Yeah, it's such a powerful scene. I love it so much. Okay, so just to mention too, so when he almost died, one of the things he asked Roger to make sure that she would get back home. He tells her like where the gems are, so that specifically Claire, but he would be like, if I die, take you and your family and go. And the question that is with this one is, why, who do you think he's talking about would kill Claire? Because it says they would come for her. Like, who do you think he means? What does that mean if she would need to go if he died?
I don't know, maybe just people there, like, because people have accused her, maybe I'm off base, but like being a witch and all these other things and being different, like he worries about people coming for her. But that might be off base on what that is. Because I don't know who they would be.
Yeah. But they also call it the White Raven, right? And the Conjurer or something.
Yeah.
No, it's as simple as what you said, Amber, because without him as protection, she wouldn't make it there. Whether it was the next week, someone would think it's witchcraft or whatever, they'd be coming for her. There's also the layer of like, he has a lot of powerful enemies. And if Jamie isn't in the way anymore, they would, you know, it could be come for the physical things in life as well. There's just a lot that would happen.
Yeah, and I feel like she pushes boundaries of like what they know with the medical field and what she's going to do. You know, sometimes like she tries to keep it in that time, but they might, you know, kind of get weirded out by what she's doing.
Okay, so yes, very true. Now we're going to a section that I think will stir up a lot of people here. There is a scene in, which chapter is this in? I didn't write down chapters for a lot of stuff, but this one I did because it's very important. It's in the chapter that's called Brother. So I guess we can mention the letter first because it does chronologically come first. But he finally gets a letter from Jenny, and she's forgiving him and apologizing. And there's some very beautiful stuff in there, even though it's like hard to hear. And there's this line in here that I really, really love. I underlined it. Let me see. She says something like this. She says, I swore that day that I would never be a coward again, and I see that it is cowardice indeed, that I should go on blaming you for young Ian. I have always kent what it is to love a man, to be it a husband or a brother, a lover or a son, a dangerous business. That's what it is. And I just think that's such a powerful line about what loving a certain kind of man is, for sure, whether it's your kid or not. Like, and to me, it's just as simple as like they have their own minds, you know. That's her acknowledging that you didn't lose my son. He chose to do this. Mm-hmm. Nobody could make him do what he did. And so how can I blame you when I love men like you and him? Like, you're always going to be independent and do what you want. And it's just us as women to love you and keep the home ready for when you come home, which some people might take as sexist, but to me, that there's nothing more that Jenny Murray wants to be than be a wife and a mother, and like who she is. So for her, that's the greatest thing. But it's such a powerful letter. Oh, I cry so much when I read this.
Yeah, I loved having the letter from Jenny because I love Jenny. And even though she was mad and furious with him, and she still was coming through, you know, saying she kind of forgave him or whatever and loved him. And I don't know, just any bit of Jenny, I just love seeing her.
Yeah. Yeah. After the letter, and my favorite thing too, because he puts the letter down and he's like, how the hell does she do that?
Makes me feel like an 8-year-old boy.
Yeah, it made me feel like I'm 8 years old and I'm an idiot. And he's like sobbing about it. I just love that.
Yeah.
I just love that. It's okay. So, okay. Now the part that I meant to say, it's a few bits later in here. So they're sleeping, and as many times before, Jamie gets a little frisky in his sleep. This happens to them all the time. So that's nothing new. There's plenty of that. But she can tell that he's not touching her the way that he touches her. He's dreaming about somebody else. And this brings on a revelation that is just so wild to me. Because it brings it, she tells him, she's like, who the hell do you think I am? Like, who are you making love to right now? Because it isn't me. And it comes out that it's Leary. He's thinking about Leary right now, which horrible thing to hear when your husband is touching you, but brings up an interesting conversation, because like it ends up bringing up the fact that he thought there was something like wrong with him, or that he was like hurting her, because the times that he'd been with Leary, she like didn't like it or whatever. Right. And you know, we find out like it's because of her trauma. Like she was raped by previous husbands. Like it's horrible. And it is one of the great tragedies of Leary. I bring this up all the time, that she finally has Jamie Fraser and she's so broken by her life that she can't appreciate it. You know, she was married. She's married to him, was married off to him. And like Claire's no longer there, like any of these things, and she can't enjoy it because she's been so broken by her previous husbands. Like when I have a bit of sympathy for her, which isn't very often, but when I have a bit of sympathy for her, it's that. And I'll say this before, like she's a kid when stuff goes down before. She's not like a kid, but like she makes an impulsive decision then. But I do fault her for what she's like in as an adult, like when they're married and when she does after he's gone, and the expecting money from him for years and years and years and all these things. It's really hard to see. But then we find out, as I've said, Jamie didn't know that she's the reason Claire almost died. He did not know. And again, I say, show, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it doesn't work. Way back in the beginning, when she knows or he knows. Like, you can't have him know because he would not have married her then. And he says it. He's like, I did not know. I did not know she was involved in this. I thought you just hated it because, you know, like she liked me when she was younger. Or whatever. And he's so sorry. And at the end of the chapter, she says, she's like, I don't want to make love to a ghost, and I don't think that you do either. But I suppose every now and then the ghost might have other ideas. So that's a tough scene to read, but I think it's fascinating because not only for that knowledge, literally 28 years later or whatever it is now, like he never knew that. And so many people who question, like, how could he have married Leary? Well, in his mind, she was just a troubled teen, didn't know her nefarious things. Like, he, I think, blamed that, like, Column didn't stop it or something, you know. That's kind of, I think, blamed. He didn't know that she directly, like, made it happen. So, and also gave testimony, like, against her to prove it, too. So, yeah, poor Leary. I mean, I don't feel that bad for her, but
I don't have a lot of compassion for her.
I know. But like I said, I do feel bad that she had Jamie Fraser ready to.
I know she wanted him so bad, but she couldn't even appreciate it.
I know. So like I do feel for that. I feel for that. And she also didn't know that Claire was alive. So she wasn't sleeping with someone else's husband. He was so yeah, I
thought Claire handled that really well because that kind of conversation could have gone really sideways. Depending on what mood you're in as a woman. And I was just like, I thought she handled it well because I was like, when I was reading, I was like, what the F? Leary? Aren't we done with this, babe?
I know. It's tough too because like Jamie, for the most part, is very understanding about when she's thinking of Frank. Like, to be honest, he'll be jealous of it plenty of times, but he lets her have her moments. And so I think it's because Jamie was not having sex with her in his head is the problem. Why she has a right to be like mad about that, you know? Because she's like, it's one thing, like, I know it happened, but why is it like still happening? You know, like, why are you thinking about her now? So very interesting.
Well, and like he was like about her getting married and kind of like that jealousy type of thing, but like not really jealous where he wanted to be with her, but it was just these conflicting feelings of like, oh well, she could move on, but like not with me. And so it was understandable, but it'd be like I'd be irritated if I was Claire.
That is the other part. That is part of the question that I didn't change is like why he was jealous. Do you think he had a right to be jealous about that? And it's interesting because Jamie's loved Claire since he first met her. So he probably wasn't thinking of Leary when he was in bed with Leary then either. You know? So, and now to, you know, so when she ends up finding someone else to be with, like, I don't blame her for that. I wish she would have let there be a divorce. But if she finally found someone she will let touch her and that she feels okay with it, then like I'm happy for her for that because trauma is awful and she didn't deserve that. You know, she didn't. And to be honest too, I wonder like how much did she really think they would actually put her to death is something else too. Like, I don't know if she really thought it would go to that. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too generous, but I like to think about it now and then. Okay, we read about Johnny's letter. Okay, we are in the final push of this. I keep saying that, but this is true. This is true. So we now find out about this. So what did you think of the tale Bonnet told about Wolf being the one trying to kill Duncan and their search for the gold?
It's plausible.
I still think it's interesting. The Battle of the Landing. And now, you know, Roger's prepared to get his revenge. But of course, you left the ladies alone, and you never should do that. I don't believe a word from Bonnet's mouth. Amen, sister. Amen. I agree. And the scene of him, oh God, we'll walk through it, of like him finding her and him wanting to take Bree and Jemmy with. And this is when Bree's lie comes back to bite us in the ass. Because why did you say that the baby was his?
Yeah.
Because now he's like, oh, I want ya. I'm taking you with me. I also don't think he gives a shit about Jemmy. I think he
No.
take her
It's
again.
about Joe Costa's land or whatever, because then she was gonna make her be her kind of heir or whatever. So it's like Bonnet doesn't give a shit about the kid. He just wants money and land and
yeah. Yeah, he's crazy. So why did Brianna shoot Bonnet in the crotch instead of somewhere else? Love that question. I mean,
yeah.
I
love Marcelli in the scene. Like I loved how like when Marcelli comes in, you know, and I just love her. I wish she was in it more, like in the book a little bit more. But yeah,
that scene was so chaotic, though. All the children were screaming. They were crying. A lot of things were happening. And I was like, shoot the motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
And then it was a misfire. And then finally, we shot him. It's like, yes.
Yeah.
You go.
Well, that's what was cool is like Marcelli was like gonna do it. Like she was no hesitation, which, you know, you always see those books where it's like the woman hesitates and then they weren't hesitating. They were going to get this jerk.
Yeah. Yeah. I also forgot to mention right before they're hunting Bonnet too, Brianna and Roger finally have their, like, I wouldn't call it a confrontation, but she's now trying to get him to stop. You know, in the same way that her mother would try to get Jamie to stop. He is just straight up. He's like, I cannot let him live. I can't let this man who my wife, who thinks that my child is his. And he's like, I'm going to do it whether or not you want me to. So like make peace with it. And I love this moment of like growth for him. I do. Because I know, again, I do think that the victim of a crime should, in some aspects, like what should happen to that person should be what they want to, if it's possible. But I also think that this is Roger like really coming into his own after everything he's been through in the last couple of years in this book. He's like, I'm prepared for this and I'm going to avenge my family because I need to. This isn't about you, even though it is. It's like, it isn't about you. Like, I need to do this. And I respect.
Well, Bonnet keeps popping back up and it's like he's a constant danger. Like they need to get rid of him. Like for everybody's safety, because he's just a menace.
Yeah. And it's just so frustrating. Okay, but anyway, we end up being fine. That skirmish doesn't last too long. We get rid of him. This is great. One question about Ottertooth. We don't have to go into a whole thing about him, but why do we think that Ottertooth didn't arrive the year that he wanted to? So we end up finding about him, but again, I don't want to. We're close to the end. I don't want to talk about that too much. But why do we think he got here at the wrong time? What do you think happened?
Was it? God, this stuff always confuses me with the time travel. But like with all the other people he was supposed to come back with, like that group, like I'm like, what happened? Where did they go? Like maybe they ended up in different times and something got messed up. So I don't know. I get so confused. I'm like, oh wait.
Yeah. That's a good question to have. Where did everyone else end up? I think they maybe did the thing of like, I think they had too much power. And so they went, because I think they went further back than they wanted to, right? Is that what he did? I think he went.
No, he wanted to go further back because he wanted to stop them from.
Oh, using like white man's tools and stuff, I think, right? Because he said it was too late, that they were already using stuff from like the white man, you know, and like what.
He wanted to stop them from trading.
Yeah.
With the Europeans. And stop them from coming to land with a lot of people.
That's right.
That was the
I was trying to find that.
The thing.
Yeah. And he didn't. And then he overplays his hand because he's a crazy, crazy guy. So, do you have any theories about why the opal exploded when Jamie held it?
Because I don't know why it exploded, because that was kind of crazy, but I just thought it was kind of to let us know that Jem could just like go through the stones and all of that. But I don't know why it got. Maybe he has. I don't know. Like it's like that's like an extreme reaction for it to explode like that when he was holding it.
Okay, so I don't know that they like find this out, but I have like two theories on it actually. I've never thought of these before, but the two things pop into mind. One, yes, it is supposed to show that like he can travel, but two, maybe the opal like isn't pure, or like it's not like a perfect stone. I don't know if that's a thing that could happen. Also I wonder if I wonder if it is if he's so much stronger maybe than both of his parents were, like a concentrated level of it. I don't know if that's why it reacted to him more. So I'm not sure, but we have some fun with Punnett squares in this one. And one of the questions we skipped over before that they had, because I didn't want to bring it up, is that at near more the beginning of the story, Roger doesn't want Claire to test his blood type because she's afraid of knowing. But by the end of it, when there's a chance to see what his tongue can do, and Jemmy has the moment of like, "What's balls?" And Jamie says, "I don't know, son, but your dad has bigger ones than me."
Oh my gosh.
And we have we've had multiple like confirmations that Jemmy would be his son. And I love that. I love it so much. But to me, that shows a huge growth in Roger. He truly, because I feel like he truly feels now if he finds out, it wouldn't affect him. I think he was saying that from the beginning, and he wants to mean it. I don't think there's anything nefarious in him. But I think in the beginning of Jem's life, there's still the question of it, and he's still not sure. And after everything he's been through and the things he's seen, I think he's 1000% sure. He's like, it won't matter to me if he's not. Like he fully that he will. And so now he's willing to do some of the tests and see, and we'll get an even better confirmation even later. There's a beautiful scene. I thought that was in this one, but that's another sign. And it's such a good moment. I love that scene when he's like, doesn't hesitate. He's like, Jem, can you do this? And he tries to. I love it so much. I wonder if Jemmy is stronger. See, I think so. And I think it might even be, because we'll see later, there's more than just time travel that some people are able to do. And Jemmy does have more things that he can kind of do, not to ruin it all, but yeah. I know. I won't say what it was, but there are some things. So anyway, I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so we did that part. Then we get to the wonderful chapter, which is called Tulloch Ard, on October of 1772, our last chapter here. And they get a boar comes attacking them, and a wolf jumps out of the trees and gets at the boar. And we think it's a wolf. And then there's an Indian who's there. There's a Native American who's there, or so they think. And nope, it's not a wolf. And it's not a Native American. It's Ian and Rollo. I almost said Frollo.
That's a different story.
How freaking happy were you? Did anyone expect that? I didn't think he was coming back. Who didn't know?
I was so happy. Like, I missed his presence in this book. Like, because he's just this cinnamon roll sweetie. Like, I love him and Jamie's relationship. I love how he treats Claire, his Auntie Claire. Like, I just really love him. And so when he showed up, and I love his wolf, like, I love that wolf. So I was like, yay, he's back. I'm just happy.
Oh, it wasn't the last chapter. There's 2 more chapters. I got too excited there. But yeah, and I did forget to mention it earlier. We get a small letter from him that I think Myers brings. That's in Latin because he's not allowed to write in like English or anything. He writes in Latin. So we knew he was okay. And that got passed on to Jenny, which that's how Jenny, part of why Jenny forgive him as well is because like he's okay.
Yeah.
But yes, you're surprised it happened. It is crazy when it happens like right at the end. I love it. Every time I'm so happy. I love Ian so much too. Oh, I adore him. My heart is so full for him. He's amazing. And he's been through some tough stuff though, and we're gonna see.
I don't think he learned in this one yet, right? Like he did. We don't know what happened with like his wife.
No.
Okay.
He doesn't want to talk about it yet. He doesn't talk about it yet. But that's why I pointed out that like it has been 2 years. It's been a little over 2 years since we've seen him. And he's definitely a man now for sure. Figured we'd see him again, but wasn't sure. Yeah. I love it. I love Ian. Ian's the best. Yeah. And I think we stopped calling him young Ian now too.
Because he's a man now.
We'll say Ian now because we've been away from his dad enough that he's on Ian. But that's really good. And then just the last bit of this too is all the otter tooth stuff and like things like that, and then getting ready for war and everything. And
well, I did like too how like I like him discovering who Claire and like Bree and them they're all came from a different time kind of stuff, and he just like openly accepts that, you know, and
yeah, because he brings some of the info with. So yeah, and then we end this with one like the second or third most popular Outlander line that's ever been said ever, which is, when the day shall come that we do part, if my last words are not I love you, you'll know it's because I didn't have time. And
love
one
that.
of my favorite lines ever, spoken by Doug to his wife. That is a line straight from Mr. Gabaldon's mouth to us. And
wow.
A lot of his lines end up in this book actually. So that's something I always love, is Jamie's definitely based off of her husband a little bit. So anyway, I knew it comes.
She must have a swoony husband.
He does have a swoony husband. She said lots of nice things about him. So it's very nice. I know. I love having Ian back. Okay, we are 2 hours in. We'll do some of our wrap up things here. And oh yeah, because someone says, do you think that was foreshadowing that he said that? And I was like, I mean, he almost dies in every book. So we'll just know, if we never hear him say I love you, it isn't over yet. Okay, so now that we got through all that, what was your favorite part of this book? I know there are lots of good things, but was there a part that you liked the best? A collection of scenes or something? What do people like the best about this one?
I'm trying to think.
Ian.
Mine's are like multiple things, is like, so it's not like one specific scene, but I think I loved so much of just Roger and Jamie together. Like, you know, when he gets bit by the snake, the way Roger like takes care of him and steps up, and, you know, just all their little scenes together. I really liked that. And then obviously I just always appreciate any of the intimate, sweet, like swoon-worthy scenes between him and Claire are just like, they're still like, I love seeing them settled. There's not any issues going on with them. So they're settled, they're together and just happy together. And so I love those moments.
Steph?
For me, it was mostly that I was done with the book. No, that's kidding. But I was happy that this one was over. But I did like them being together, and the stuff between Roger and Bree I really liked. And of course the little Claire and Jamie moments. And when he was rough with her, and then she was like, I liked it. And they had like these little things about the bear, the joke about the bear, when he's the bear killer.
Yeah.
Those were things.
Yeah, we couldn't get to everything. That is a good one, because he feels very guilty whenever they have too rough of types of sex. He gets worried that he's tainted by what Blackjack did to him or something. And she's like, no, I'll
No,
tell you
I
if
like
I don't like it. No, so like, I'll tell you if I don't like it. The microscope was fun.
My
Microscope.
bum will be black for Bruce tomorrow.
I know.
grew up
And he's
against
like,
the wall.
I'm so horrible. And she's like, honey, I like it. It's fine. I like that you're so attracted to me still. Claire is a bit of a vain woman. Like, let's say it. She is always comparing her looks to other people and if they look the same age as her or not and stuff. Let's just be real. She's a little bit vain about it. So yes, I know I said we'd go back to the sperm stuff too, and I didn't. But yeah, that's a great scene. That's a classic. Everyone loves pointing that one out. Her microscope
them for me. Take good care of them.
Right?
It was funny.
So I love, yes, I always do. My favorite parts of it, I love all the medical stuff. So that's why, like, I love whenever I get to see her do the doctoring. It's some of my favorite things. I think through the whole series, I love doctoring stuff. Situations that seem impossible, situations where she has to come up with a way to do something she can do in the future, but like, how can she do it now? Not even just because she doesn't want to like break the past, but just because some things don't exist. Like she just can't do it. And so trying to make, penicillin, I love those things. And someone I think had mentioned it earlier in one. Oh no, it was in our group chat about like the bugs, the Arch and his wife that like they think it's gross. She wants all the mold, but they're like, oh, I'll have some scraps from in the kit. But she's still so like supportive of whatever she's doing and anything. And yeah, I just love the medical stuff, like doing the surgery on his tonsils and even the leg, even though that was gross, it was tough. How Roger's throat, helping like when it's nasty again, but like assessing like the Beardsley's wounds, like I love all of that stuff. It's very riveting to me, even when it's especially listening to it. Like I did listen to part of this one, I said, and I love listening to those type of things. So I love that. And then my other thing as well is Roger and Jamie too. That's my answer too. I love them. This to me, this is what I was saying in the beginning when I said some of the most important things are in this one. And for me, it's Jamie and Roger's relationship because they had a grudging respect for each other at the end of the fourth book. Jamie was proud of him that he came back. He thought he took too long to come back, but he was very proud of him. And so this whole book to me in these 2 years are Roger kind of proving himself to Jamie. And one of the questions I kind of skipped to because we have had enough of them was like how their relationship changed as well after he got hurt. And we didn't even mention it. Jamie puts him in charge of everything at the Ridge while he's healing. He's the one who actually invites Tom Christie in. I didn't mention Tom Christie. He's a very important character. Tom Christie, super important. Roger's the one who invites him in. And he's supportive of him even not being like Catholic and stuff. Like he comes around to some of that of like, you're a good man either way. So I love all of those things. And it is something that I say again and again was vitally missing from the TV show because they play Roger as the dumb son-in-law who's like not good enough for so much of it. And I'm just like, no, Jamie sets expectations and people rise to them. And to me, that's what Roger does is he just rises to the expectations again and again and again. He watches him deal with, trying to help Bree through things. He watches him being a father to Jem. He watches him try to learn what skills he can to be a good dad. And Jamie, so that leads to him in the end to Bree saying like, your husband's a man and this is what he has to do. And Jamie didn't always talk about Roger that way before. So that's why this book is vital to me, seeing that, because their relationship getting so tight like that is vitally important to me. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, let's see this here. I would not have done well with traveling from the 20th to the 18th. I like modern medicine, anesthesia for certain. Yeah, 100%. Feel ya, not to mention proper bathroom. Oh my gosh, I know. That's why we're thankful for Bree and that she's trying to bring better plumbing.
Mine is air conditioning. I'm like, how do you live without air conditioning? I just like can't imagine.
In North Carolina too. They're in like North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm like when they were bringing up how hot it was when they were like first there. I think like in the previous book, I was like, I can't, like, no. You're in the South, like.
I know too, though, like, because Jessin was just in Scotland, and she's like, there's no air conditioning, like, anywhere over there. You guys don't have it as readily as we do, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I couldn't
It's
do
cold over here most of the year. You don't need it.
That's fair.
It's rainy and it's cold. It's just a waste of energy and money. It really is, because energy is expensive, and
yeah.
I'm ready for winter right now because it's like out in San Diego. It's like it's just hot. It's hot, and my AC's on all the time. I'm like, so that's why I'm like, oh, I couldn't.
Yeah. Okay. And this question here then. Was getting through this book as hard as you've heard that it might be?
To me, it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think because the last one, I think, was one of my favorites. And I loved it so much. And then this one, I was just really, I struggled through it. I mean, if I didn't have the audiobook, I think I would have taken like way longer too, like because I was doing that plus like the ebook at the same time. But yeah, I had a tough time with it.
Nice. Ruth says it wasn't all. I'm so glad. Literally so glad. I'm happy to hear either one. I'm happy you pushed through it, even though it was.
I didn't finish it fast, though.
Yeah. Not a slog. Honestly, the only book I haven't enjoyed was the first one. Oh, I'm so glad. I love hearing that. I love hearing it. Yeah, again, to me, they're all pretty much the same. It really just depends on me on which events happen in each book is why they're like layered different things. I think her writing is very consistent, and the way she tells her story is consistent kind of the whole time. Yeah. Particularly from 5 onward. Someone said in the beginning, like, this is redefining what the series is going to be. And there's less like certain mission in each one. We are now just like, we're fighting in the war, and that's what's happening. We're having to deal with different things. Sometimes we're more involved in the war than other times. There's going to be some murders and some illnesses and some more births. And there's going to be like more time travel. There's so many things still to come. So, but yeah, this is definitely a transition book, though. I don't think the other, like, again, if you made it through this one and you enjoyed most of it, you just thought it was like tough to like get through it, I think you'll like all the rest of them better as it goes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And Ashes, A Breath of Snow and Ashes is just amazing. So it took me over a month to read. The beginning was tough, and then it picked up. Yeah, fair enough. Well, good. I'm glad everyone got through it. So yeah, so that was the Fiery Cross. There's a lot. And like I said, I never can tell you which events happened in this one, except I remember the gathering. And I remember the, like, that Ian comes back. Those are the 2 things that stand out. And that's the beginning and the end of this book, pretty much. But I enjoyed myself the whole time through. I
think I was extra frustrated when I'm like, why is Stephen Bonnet still an issue then? After they hit this whole, it's still not resolved.
What's the blurb on the next one, Amanda? We all have different copies, so I don't know what you're talking about. But while she's pulling that up. So the next one we'll get almost 2 months to do. I have it planned for early November is going to be our next one, because I want to give us a good amount of time, but I don't want to wait till the end of November. And obviously there's Thanksgiving here in the US, and then we're getting into stuff. So my plan is to be able to kind of miss the holidays. So we're going to do the next one. I made the graphic already. I don't know. I think it's when did I pick it? The 7th or the 9th of November. Let me see. Where did I put it? Okay, here we go. November 3rd. I'm earlier than I thought. So the first, I think I did it on a Saturday again. Yeah, at 4 p.m. on that one, because we're going to start getting dark then. Or we will be by then. And that will be for A Breath of Snow and Ashes. And then I'm going to do the next one in January. So that's how I'm planning to miss the holidays. We're doing one before, and then we'll do one like midway through January. And we're over the hump now. We got 4 left to do.
2nd then of November, because the 3rd is a Sunday.
Okay. Let me see. November. No, yeah, it is the 3rd. I do have it on a Sunday. At 4 p.m. So I did do it on that day. I don't know. I picked that. So yeah, that's going to be the next one. So yeah, thanks for everyone for surviving this. Yep, we still were over 2 hours. No one surprised us ever, Jen. But yeah, this is great. I'm so glad you guys made it through. I hope you really love the next one. There's some crazy things. You're probably gonna cry a lot. And also love it. It's amazing. So I'll let you all get to bed or whatever you're doing next. So we'll talk to you later. Have a great day. Thanks for coming.